Hey guys, welcome to the room. Today we are going to be building a pedal board. So this video is going to be a DIY project video, building a pedal board. I have a series of 10, 12 summer gigs coming up. So bigger stages, bigger crowds, and I want something that hits a few requirements for me. So I want something that is easy to set up, and for me that really means battery powered up at the front of the stage, because I've been having a lot of luck with battery powered rigs. So battery powered. I want something that doesn't take long to plug things in. I also want something that if I'm going to plug things in, I don't want to plug things into the pedals. I'm tired of putting things in the jacks and out of the jacks of the individual pedals, because I don't like the wear and tear and the fact that when you accidentally grab a cable or yank on something, it's pulling on the pedal and pulling things away. So I don't like that. I want some sort of pedal board that has an inlet and an outlet for the actual guitar cables. I also want something that fits the pedals, obviously, that I want to use. I want to use my Jam multi-pedal. I want to use my Boss Tape Echo, Space Echo, should I say. I also want to use a few other pedals. It's got to be able to facilitate a wet-dry rig. And then one of the things I've really been liking recently is to use an expression pedal with that Space Echo. So I need a board that, in addition to ins and outs, it's got some sort of jack for the TRS cable that the expression pedal plugs into, or that you link between the expression pedal and the actual Space Echo itself. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's got to look cool. It's got to fit nicely on stage. And to that end, I would say I've already pre-measured. And if I find something, this looks big in the camera, I guess. It's not. I'll show you the design, but it's got to fit, this has to be the footprint of the actual pedal board that we'll be making in this video. So in terms of the video, I'm going to take you through a few seconds on the design, what I'm thinking it's going to look like. I'll show you my current rig and why I need a pedal board so badly. I'll show you what I'm thinking about, maybe some dry fits. I'll also show you the assembly process. I'll walk you through all the components, and then at the end of the video, we'll take a look at how this thing came out. And hopefully I'll do a recap after I've done a few gigs on the pedal board. Grab a coffee, grab a drink, grab your favorite beverage. Let's hang out for a few minutes and build a pedal board together. Let's get started. After we had done some measurement of the individual components, I figured, well, I didn't really know the best way to show this to you. So let's see if we can get the camera to zoom in on it. This is really just a rough sketch of the design of the board. And by design, I mean a quick build plan of the wood components that we'll use. It doesn't account for any modules, hinges, feet, anything like that. I'll put a list together of all the components we ended up using and, of course, the final cost for the pedal board. I sort of forgot one of the things is it has to be cheap. So we're going to go for a cheap board, DIY, but I figured I'd jot down a quick design and give you some rough dimensions. And again, when I looked at all that, measured all the pieces, laid it out quickly, that's where I came up with this guy. It's roughly 18 inches wide by 14 inches deep, and we're going to be building a multi-tiered deck. Let's keep going. What you're seeing here is my live setup, sort of ideally. I don't bring the 3 amps. I'm just showing you the Marshall JTM 45 and my custom Vibrolux, which if I have a gig that's big enough or a stage that's big enough to do the wet-dry thing, I will bring these 2 amplifiers and hook it up. But let's get a little bit closer. This is what I'm looking to consolidate. So I currently run this, and depending on stage configuration, it might wrap around more than this, but generally speaking, I will have, and let's go back to the beginning here. I'm using this Octaland for an octave fuzz, the wah pedal, Jam wah pedal, the pedal that you are familiar with, or the multi-pedal that you are familiar with. It's got a bunch of things. Fuzz, Tube Screamer style, Rat style, boost, Ripley fall, chorus phaser. It's got some wobbly stuff with the Harmonious Monk inside, and also the Delay Llama. It's an analog delay, a single line. That goes into the Boss pedal here, which is the Space Echo RE202. I have an expression pedal on that specifically for how much of the wet effect or the delay is in the signal, and then a few presets set up on this one. And then you guys are familiar with this if you've seen the other videos. the Line 6 Roto Machine, which is a Leslie cabinet style effect, and I've thrown that into a single loop JHS switchback with a remote. But you can see that this takes up pretty significant real estate, and that's not including the battery pack, which I love. This whole rig runs for hours on just that battery pack. I'll throw links in the description because it's worth having one. And this is my splitter for wet dry. And so if one thing is the real estate, right? Let's look at this left to right. And, again, maybe it would wrap around the side a little bit more. It's not too bad, but it's definitely some significant real estate. But I don't have this consolidated, so this is plugging all the patch cables and power cables in to set up every gig, including setting up the shotgun from scratch. So it all comes in a duffel bag, and then I set all this stuff up. Alright guys, this is a familiar view. You are at the bench top, and I figured I'd lay this out with all of the parts we're going to use to build the pedal board itself, and I'll do a dry fit up on this bench as well before we paint out all the parts. But what you're staring at is under $150 worth of parts in total, including the paint, including the modules, including the wood. The wood was about 30 bucks. So if you're saying, ooh, this is a really nice pedal board kit, I know, and I'm pretty excited about it. But, I put in the time and effort to design all the parts out, to see how all the individual pieces fit together, to dry fit stuff, and this is what you end up with just prior to assembly. But in terms of spend, these are Temple Audio patch modules for their board, but you cut the right size hole and you can use it in anything, and we'll mount it up to the side of this board. You'll see the two-tier setup in a second, but $49 and $39 as of today, early July 2026 through Sweetwater. That's the bulk of the spend. Paint, $6 to $10 a can. Some of these parts, they're a couple dollars each really on Amazon. So in total, it is under $150 for everything you see on the bench. So we have a pedal board for sub $150 as long as you're willing to put the time and effort in to cut it out and build it. This just gives you an idea of the two-tier board that I was talking about. You can see where the modules fit in, where we're going to have the extra 9-volt DC output from the power brick that can power external pedals if we happen to line anything up. I already told you that I intend on putting the wah off the board on this side. I'll have the expression pedal on the other side with another power. It doesn't need it, but I'll have another power out that side in case something comes later. And then, again, this is just a dry fit. I am showing you these parts after I've put some filler on the edge grain and sanded them, just to give it an even more finished look once it's done being painted. But I figured, hey, I'd show you the dry fit, and you can see the two tiers. The hinges will go on this and allow this top part to flip upwards. And then we might as well get the pedals and put them in here to give you an idea of what this whole setup will look like. Before I do that, let me give you close up here. That's that module. So once we mount the module in there on both sides, we'll have the ability to plug stuff into the board without having to plug anything directly and unplug things all of the time directly into the pedals on the board. Here's our dry fit. Now we have the wah off the board. The fuzz goes right into this. The jam wah pedal is nice because it doesn't have a buffer in this circuit, and so it actually plays really well before or after the fuzz. I've already tested that, and I'm quite happy with it. So that makes it easy in terms of signal chain. Fuzz into my multi-pedal by Jam. It's got all the things that we're familiar with. The wet dry stuff, I'll pull the top off in a second. So this will go split wet dry, and then it'll come up to the delay and then out to this line 6 roto machine pedal. I'm going to pull the pedals off of this bass. It does so it won't look so silly, but I didn't do that yet. I'm just showing you that it definitively fits in the circuit. If you haven't seen the previous video on this little build, definitely check it out. But to cut a long story short, I have this switch back here because this pedal sounds awesome, but it's really noisy in the signal chain. So I just use this as a single loop in and out to bring this pedal in, and then you can switch between high speed and low speed like you would a Leslie pedal, generally speaking. Our expression pedal will sit off the 4-way patch bays on this side, so we'll have the wet-dry outputs, a blank output, and then I'll wire specifically so the expression TRS can go through that patch as well, just making that even more robust. So let's check this out underneath. Pull these off, set these aside. Again, this is just dry fit. And then, I don't know if you could see it back there, but the shotgun and the power bank are in fact behind. There's more than enough room underneath the top and then behind the Jam multi-pedal for the power and the split for the wet-dry setup. So more than enough room. If anything, if I got cute or clever with it, I have more room for even more pedals, which, considering we were trying to make this as small as possible, there's even some more room to go, but I thought it was gonna not really work out starting with our little piece of cardboard as a footprint. So I think this has come along quite well. It's gonna be a really nice, pretty small, at least compared to the setup that I had going. This is the dry fit. I'm gonna go paint out these parts, and then next time, I'll show some B-roll of painting, but the next time you see these parts, we will be assembling them. Just peeling and sticking the Velcro on the pedals that are going in, looking to permanently mount them with this Velcro. It only takes a small piece in each corner. You see I put some tape in the corners there to line up where I wanted that pedal to end up, just so I didn't mess that up. And then it's really a matter of peeling and sticking from there, same as all of the other components on the bottom. This is important. I wanted to make sure that I had the polarity right on the power connectors. And then we're going to solder those connectors in because the components that I bought didn't have any 9-volt connectors I could plug into the batteries. So just making sure I got good solder joints, and then heat shrinking to re-insulate those joints. Oh, this is just me throwing the patch cables in. So not a lot to see here, but connecting everything to make sure that it would work. And then we moved on to the upper deck, putting that space echo on and putting the remaining components in their places before we started to wire them up. And then also checking real quick to make sure the Velcro would in fact hold. And of course, it does just fine. Really cool functionality on that top hinge and latch assembly. So then the rest is just running these power cords and running the audio signals up in the order that we want the board to run in. And then what I decided to do was, I guess, think more three-dimensionally, and I stacked 2 battery packs on top of each other rather than taking up more landscape. Everything fits really nicely in there this way, but also, just it had the space to go vertical, so why not just stack the power banks one on top of the other? And then rest of the assembly is really tidying the wires up. Here is our final product. At least the side that you would interface with while gigging. We ended up with some pretty cool iridescent paint in the sunlight. It does shift color. It's pretty cool, from blue to a green to a purple. Pretty nice looking little board. And we got something that's really easy to set up. Wah first in the signal off the board, so I could place that a little bit wherever I want to. Have an extra input here we're not using, but we have a primary input on the board right there. So that's hooking the wob is a matter of connecting the 1 cable and then 1 power, because we wired in the little auxiliary power in the 9-volt port. That goes into this board. Board itself has hinges. Facilitates a wet-dry setup thanks to that radial shotgun that splits the signal. Also allows you to change the phase, which is pretty awesome. It's also got a ground lift, so that works out really well, stays really quiet. 2 battery packs in here that power everything. And then on the far side, we have multiple ports via those modules. Another power port in case we need it. And that helps us to have the TRS cable run to our expression, which is off the board. That goes into the space echo, allows us to tailor the mix. Oh, that's what I have it set for. And then this is wet-dry, so you have a wet signal and then your dry signal split from that radial. That's the entire rig. Came out very awesome. And plugs right into these guys for these upcoming summer shows. Very cool. Guitar in, 1 patch cable, 1 power cable, TRS patch cable, my 2-line 1/4 inch to my amps, and I'm done. That's it. Turn it on. I mean, to be fair, I do have to remember to charge it, but it does last 2 gigs. So even in an emergency, it's not so bad. Also in an emergency, I could technically just plug in a USB-C power supply and it would run the board too. Hey guys, back in the room. This is actually a couple weeks after I started filming this. I'm in between work meetings, so hence the very obvious work attire. But it's a couple weeks later because I ended up putting it together and doing a bunch of these summer gigs that I wanted to do and putting some mileage, so to speak, on this new pedal board. And it came out really awesome. I mean, before that, just as a reminder, we started off with an idea, some sketches, and a piece of cardboard that we wanted as a footprint. I guess all things considered, we pretty much nailed that. But this was a super fun project. I have never used the iridescent paint before, and so that was really cool. I don't know if it'll work in like the studio lights like this, but in the sunlight it does shift from blue to green to purple. It's pretty awesome. We built in our multiple tiers that we wanted. We've got all the utility components underneath here. The split, the shotgun radial thing that allows us to do the wet dry. 2 battery packs in here, which ends up, this board lasts 2 gigs plus. I do recharge it between every gig. It only takes like an hour to recharge the packs. But it easily lasts for 4+ hours per gig, and you can do that for 2 or more gigs easily with the pedals that are on here. You know, what we wanted out of this project was our preferred landscape. Nailed it. The ability to have the off-board wah and expression pedal that drives the mix, which is just how we have it set on this board. Nailed it. We also have these cool input-output modules, so we're not connecting things into and out of pedals, stressing or putting any strain on the pedal jacks themselves. Nailed it. Super easy to use because we put this cutout in the back, so check it out. That's where the switches are for the battery pack, and then I don't know if you could see the lights blinking, but all the pedals are then on. We added some additional functionality by putting some additional 9-volt bulkhead fittings. We can attach, pedals. You can easily run a jumper cable, a patch cable, and power them from the board right from these battery packs in here. So it just makes it really easy. It fits great with the microphone stand that we have going. That was the other thing. It's got to be very quick to set up. When I showed up to some of these first gigs with this pedal board, it took minutes. It was just nothing to set up. Drop the amps in place, plug them in, run a couple wires, drop this guy in place right at the front of the stage. No power. Patch cable, wah, patch cable, expression, done. It was just a few minutes worth of setup. So this came out really awesome. Thank you for joining the project. Thank you for watching along with me as I built this. I hope you learned something. I'm going to put together a package of like the list of components that I used in this. I'll also put together a package that includes the design for all of the parts. So if you wanted to make one yourself, you could. That information will all be present in the description. If you liked the video, if you liked the project itself, like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.